why social economy is important, in fact, is that it really is an alternative way to handle social and environmental problems that we may have. Because if we go to traditional business way of doing things, the first priority is to bring profits to the shareholders, which may or may not take into account stakeholders around the business. And social economy is the reverse trend. So their main mission is to be able to help out and solve social and environmental problems. That is their basic mission. That's why they exist.
Hello, welcome. This is the Climate Circular Coop interviews. I am Asia. I'm a PhD student at University of Ferrara, and today I'm here with Alex Delorme, project team coordinator from the Conseil d'économie sociale de l'Île de Montréal, or the Council of Social Economy for the Island of Montreal, Canada, because I'm actually visiting the Institute of Co-ops at HEC Montreal, where I had the pleasure of meeting Alex. So Alex, thank you very much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. My role, in fact, as coordinator, the projects team coordinator, is to a little bit like manage and make sure that the results of our projects are obtained. So here at the CESIM, we have many different projects that are there to help the social economy businesses that are on the island of Montreal. So that is one of the roles of the organization. And of course, the bigger role of the organization, which is also like a regional part of a province-wide movement, is to be able to make the model, the social economy model, known to the highest number of people possible and organizations possible. So so for people to know that there's an alternative way to do business, and that their business in a collective way can have an impact in their community. Therefore, they each have their own projects that will help out a different category of social economy businesses. One will mostly take care of businesses that are emerging. So emerging projects with groups of promoters. So normally they have to be at least 3 or more to have a social economy project, whether it's a co-op or a nonprofit. And my other team member usually will take care of other projects that will help existing businesses being able to commercialize better, most notably. And so it's to really give them like more, a little bit, to coach them better to be able to do business with bigger institutions that will buy from social economy businesses. So basically that's what we do, and that's my role. And the social economy model is to say, well, we'll use, in fact, today's capitalistic way of doing business, which is widespread around the world, to say, well, fine, we'll leverage that, and we'll be able to give us a little bit more leeway financially to be able to take care of our social mission by selling products or services, because that's what social economy businesses are. Basically, in Quebec, they are either nonprofits or they are co-ops who sell products or services in order to finance their social mission. So they can do it at different levels. Nonprofits will vary a lot more than co-ops, which usually have more of a traditional business model, while nonprofits will have more of a community approach. So they will vary, the percentage of, let's say, autonomous revenues will vary greatly. It can be like from 10 to 100%. And so the rest will be compensated by different government grants or projects and stuff like that. So basically, that's why it's really important, because they really do tend to take care of problems that either the government or the private sector will completely leave aside. So they're really there to patch things up, and hopefully will grow to be able to include all other types of problems that we may have.
And which are specifically the challenges when we speak of shifting our mindset towards, because social economy includes also circular economy practices. So maybe we don't have to go too much into detail in that, but we do know that to apply better circular economy practices, you require stronger awareness what your stakeholders are doing. So you did mention co-ops kind of do that in the community, because you have to be knowledgeable about that to be efficient. But so did you, I imagine you've been doing this for years. So what was the challenges that you saw to shift now that social economy and circular economy are becoming a boom even in co-ops and other form of businesses?
It is for people to know about the models themselves. It's for people to know about that their cooperatives exist and nonprofits who sell products and services exist as well. And that comes down to education. So in colleges, universities, they need to talk a little bit more about those models, that they exist and that they're aligned with the values of the younger generation who really want to help out and solve the world's problems, whether environmental or social. And, you have to go way back when, universities, business colleges, they were really having a mindset of, starting business, make money, and that's what's going to create growth. So the economy is based around this concept of constant growth, and that goes through privatized businesses and, amassing capital. Well, that's where the social economy will have its difficulty in making its way, because you cannot make money with social economy businesses in the way that private businesses can. So for sure, that's one of the big blocks. In fact, I just said both in almost the same sentence. Basically, it's getting the model known in colleges and university, seeing that there's also that model that exists to do business, but also there's the fact that it's not as valued because you cannot make as much money with it. And maybe a third block comes with it is also the financing. So social economy and social economy businesses, whether it's co-ops or nonprofits, will often have difficulty getting financing from banks, from many different financial organizations, because of course of the question of return on investment, or make sure that the loans are paid and stuff like that. So there's like a parallel sector of financing that will take care of that, but they're still very minimal compared to the huge amount of banks in the world that could finance them a lot better. So that's like 3 blocks that social economy has right now in order to really grow.
In your experience, do you think that the concern with financing, it's more also in the business model of a choice of a specific type of business model rather than also the social economy part? For instance, I choose to be a co-op or a nonprofit rather than another kind of private company. Do you think that the financing goes down also to that misconception?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. There's a lot of myths surrounding social economy, and those myths are pretty stubborn in the financing world. And even today in Quebec, you will not see a bank will finance nonprofits who sell products and services, because in their minds, oh no, they're not there to make money, and they even think, well, in fact, they're probably going to lose money because their business model is not to make money. So they only think there's only expenses and hardly no revenues, which is not true. So again, it's a question of education, of educating the people of the financing world, saying, no, that's not their business model. Their business model is still to make money. It's still to be profitable. That is their goal, or else anyways, they'll shut down their operations. So it's so those are stubborn myths that are still very strong in the financing world that has to be undone. It's far from, we're far from there, but slowly but surely, one person by person, organization by organization, we're starting to make them understand that there is an advantage to finance social businesses. It's just that they haven't seen it yet. Not all of them anyways.
And when it comes down to telling other people about what you do specifically, and about saying, hey, this is my job, it's quite a particular job. I imagine it's quite fun. It's very, engaging and community-based. But what's the first block that you get, and how do you sort of fight it? Because I imagine that the same challenge you as a professional could share, other co-ops could share, or other academics in the field could share, just as being the theme, I guess, very still, we could say new, but we know it's not new, but we could say it's special, at least.
Special, and absolutely. And I think the best example I can give you is when I go to a family party, and then people ask me, oh, what do you do again? And then I automatically let out a huge sigh, because I know that most of them will not understand what I do. And that's maybe one of the downsides of working in the social economy sector, is that it's not easy necessarily to understand for everyone. It's like if you need a certain level of awareness of education to understand the complexities of the model. But then again, I don't believe that's true. It's just maybe that it's, again, not well known. It's not much talked about in the newspapers. It's not talked about you'll see them once in a while, but it's like really, really rare examples. So that's the biggest blog I have, is when I explain what I do, people will not understand. And I try to explain it as simply as I can, saying, well, I work for a nonprofit. That nonprofit helps other nonprofits and co-ops, into developing themselves, to make the model known. And then they're like, whoa, it's already quite a bit of information. So I think people do understand, but it has to be repeated often. That's why it's hard. And you have to repeat and use another angle, then use another angle, and then eventually they will understand. But it's very time consuming. So imagine all the other co-ops and social economy nonprofits, they had the same problems, if we want.
Sure. And you would think also that co-ops wouldn't have to go through that, considering technically that they are there to make profit, just in a different perception than any other company, but they still need funding to survive and to be sustainable economically. So, and the same for nonprofits. I think there's a lot of stigma there also for nonprofits, because of course profit there is not there, but they do need to survive on, funding to keep doing the good things that they aim to do. So definitely that's very important.
Skill set you'll need to work into either to work for a social economy business or to start a social economy business. Basically, you're going to need to have a whole lot of heart. You will have a desire to change things in the world, not just in a economic way, but in a social, environmental way. So basically you really need a lot of soft skills, basically communication skills, be able to convince others of, the positive impacts of your projects. So it takes a lot of those skills in order to work in a social economy business. And for sure, you have to add that to all the other skills when you be an entrepreneur yourself. Which demands a lot in the beginning. And one of the issues that a lot of social entrepreneurs have, especially in the nonprofit and co-op model, is that they'll put a lot of time and effort, and it's not something that they can count on that they'll make money with, because it will not grow and have a higher value, and then they can resell that business and then compensate themselves in some way. So that's not a reason you go into social economy. You're really there because you want to make a difference. It really resonates with your values. You have a very high soft skill set. And of course, any other technical skill you can bring, the whole sector will take, whether it's finance, accounting, whether it's marketing, anything, or, production, whatever can be used, the people will be happy. But you see in my team, I have very highly educated individuals, and but it wouldn't be necessary. It could have been, when I say highly educated, they have master's degrees. But again, it shows how the social economy sector is very attractive to those young people from universities, because they say, well, yeah, okay, it's fun to have a master's degree and a business master's degree, but do I want to work for a big corporation, or So then they're ready to use those skills and work in the social economy. And that is precious, because those people have those soft skill sets. And that was really, really useful.
Then the advice that I would ask, if you want to share to those, and I'm going to move more to co-ops instead of nonprofit, because I would like to, maybe frame it into more an idea of a business that has an aim to be sustainable, however, has to, again, make profit. What advice do you give when they face themselves in the choice of, out in the world, out in the business world, especially since you're part of that world, what advice would you give them?
It always comes down to perseverance, and also belief in your model. If we particularly talk about the cooperative model, the main reason it exists is to give equal opportunity to all its members. And it's there to answer the needs of its members in a, yes, most often lucrative model, a for-profit model, but that will be for the benefit of all members equally. And that is something that they just need to keep belief in that model. And because, of course, like in any model, it's not perfect. That's when I was talking about how communication skills are important. Well, when you're in a co-op, well, it's not a top-down hierarchy, it's very horizontal. So everybody has their voice heard. And of course, depending on the size of a co-op, for sure, when you have a smaller co-op, maybe less than 10 members, it's a little bit easier for everyone to have their voice. Or it could be harder because then you don't have a highly structured administrative board. A board of directors, when you have more than 10 members, even though less than 10 members can still have one. So basically, it's not to give up. And yes, there's more communication to be had between members. There's issues that will come from within mostly, in addition to the issues that you will face in any type of business model in the world. Whether it's, I don't have enough money. How do I finance my operations? How can I get more sales? How can I be more efficient in my operations? That never changes really. But in a co-op model is to say, well, okay, I have this vision, and then, I have this vision, and we're both equal into saying our vision, and how do we share this, and how can we keep this going within our business model? So basically, it's not give up. That sometimes the communication could be turbulent. Sometimes it could be a little bit rough going, but at the end, if everybody keeps believing in the validity of the model itself, it's highly worth it to keep going.
About skills, so are there any personality or people structure that are more prominent generally in co-ops or could be more prominent?
Yeah, definitely. I think it all comes down to there's certain personalities that are more prone to want to create co-ops or to work in co-ops. There's a question of personalities and there's a question of values too. And that is not something that you can necessarily just shove into someone. The personality comes with, it's already there and it's developed over time, but there's a lot of personalities of people who like to share ideas, who are very cooperative, very open-minded, very communicative. I think those type of people who also have a passion at a level where they know that they could help others. Those are the type of personalities and values that will greatly benefit a social economy business, whether it's a co-op or nonprofit. You definitely need that. So it's a question. Yeah, there's certain personalities that will fit better. Those who really want to change the world at their own level, at their own way, but they know that they can't do it themselves. They need others. So it's the type of personalities. It's not necessarily the people who are. It also depends a lot of their upbringing. A lot of those values come from upbringing. So when they see their parents or family being very involved in community service or, always helping out and stuff like that, well, it gives the idea that, hey, look what we can do on a collective level. So those are definitely traits that are to be looked for and also to be developed in order to work in social economy.
That is very great. Do you think that some of those skills could be learned in time and also be translated for professionals within other forms of businesses, private, who should, we could say, risky saying, but we could say they could be more cooperative?
Definitely, absolutely. All that can be learned. It's never too late to learn something new, And sometimes the value is already there, but just not like brought more to your conscience. So when you learn about these models, then yes, someone could say, well, hey, I've been working in an accounting firm for 10 years. And then I realized, social economy businesses exist. And then it wakes up something in him that has been, like hiding or waiting to come out. And then he says, yes, that is more of my calling. You'll get a lot of that. There's a lot of people who will change careers because they realize that what they've been doing for a long time in the traditional business world just does not fit anymore. I know that's what happened to me. I've been working for my current organization, which I've been there for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I was actually being more of, I was teaching how to start businesses, and I was also counseling businesses in different areas of their business model, whether it's how to get financing, how to be more efficient, how to do better marketing. Then I was saying, wait a minute. But then I started hearing about social economy, and I was saying, oh my God, this is really something that actually has value in a society. Don't say that traditional business don't have value. Of course, they have tremendous value, but their mission is to add value to society. to help out to resolve specific problems. So for me, that was a calling, and it took me at least 5 years before I actually made the switch because, well, for different reasons. But once I made the switch, there's no going back. There's absolutely no going back. Once you get into that, of course, if you have a positive experience, you will want to continue. Yes, I've heard of certain organizations, social economy organizations, where, okay, it's been a little bit more difficult and people will leave the sector for another sector. But a lot of the younger generations is actually doing the opposite. As soon as they discover about this model, they are interested and they want to see how they can contribute into those businesses.
That is great. So we look forward that for this interview to also inspire other people to consider building this kind of business model, and hopefully it'll get out there that, you know, social economy, circular economy, co-ops, nonprofit, and generally more cooperative ways of doing business are is sort of the future, because that's the reason why we're here. That's the reason this project exists, and that's the reason why academics are also interested specifically, or professionals like yourself are also moving towards that direction for a very good reason. As I thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. It's been really fun answering your questions, and I hope that the interview will benefit the most people.
Great. So I invite people to follow your website, because I will be providing the link below this interview, and also the Climate Circular Coop, of course, is also available for other interviews for other interested stakeholders, as well as there's a LinkedIn group to join. So thank you for those watching as well.